Hi, I'm Chrissy O'Malley, and this is Better Science Teaching. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about portfolios. They basically serve two purposes for teachers, in my opinion. One is so that you have something that you can take to an interview. Kind of think of it as a prop. Or it's something that you can use to keep track of your activities and the highlights of your career as a teacher. So we're going to jump right in. I'm just going to flip through a couple. I have one that I used for the job that I have now, and then I have a portfolio where I just keep track of progress through things and certifications and licenses and interesting things that I've done in case I ever need that information for pursuing an advanced licensure or other kinds of programming. So I'm going to flip my camera around and then we'll just do some walkthroughs of my portfolios. All right, so I just keep my portfolios inside binders. This one is just blue and with a page that I printed off. I thought this was a little bit corny, but it was cute, so I kept it. Serious scientist, experienced educator. And I put my degrees at the bottom and my licensure. So we're just going to walk through my portfolio so you can see what's inside of them. There's lots of different options of things that you can put in, but some of the things that I chose were things that I thought either would demonstrate things that may come up in an interview, or one of the greatest things that my portfolio has paid off for is if I went to an interview and then ended up in a meeting with HR on the same day, right immediately following, which did happen for one of the jobs that I did take. So my cover. The other thing you should know, I didn't really intend for these to be left behind. I keep a lot of these things on a digital file, so if somebody wants to read something or spend more time with it, I can give that to them to be able to look at. This has just been living in here. This is a master's thesis. I did it after my PhD. I didn't bother to bind it. Maybe I should have. I actually really like that study. On the top, I always have a cover letter for the job that I applied for. This is my cover letter that I wrote for the job that I currently hold. Then immediately following that, I have my 2-page resume. So this is just a quick one. And what I have on my resume is contact information, licensure, my educational background. This is all listed chronologically. Some people argue about whether this should be chronological or not because I got a PhD before I got another master's. So sometimes I flip that for certain things, but I don't think that it really matters, particularly in this case. I have listed all my teaching experience. At the time that I did this interview, I only had 2 years of experience as a high school teacher, and the other 13 years of experience was as a professor, an adjunct professor, a lecturer, or as I was like a teacher or a fellow or something that was working in some sort of informal education. Then I have my CV, which this one is kind of frozen in time because this is my portfolio from when I applied for my current job. So this is what my CV would have been in 2015. It's a good practice to update it pretty regularly. I've got some references, and then I have a series of letters. It's kind of nice that these are in here because it's nice to kind of look back and read them. I have several of these from different people that I've known in different jobs. Hold on a second. But I did kind of want to throw out, I had one that if you're writing letters, do be careful about things like how you use someone's name. Because I was a little bit, I've never actually used this letter. It lives here, but it says Miss O'Malley, and when she wrote this letter, I already had a PhD, so I was a little bit confused about that. I had a PhD and I was married, so there's no way that that's really the way anyone ever refers to me. And there's actually another teacher that in our building right now that's Miss O'Malley, so be careful about names. It matters. I have some other just evidence. I have like a brochure here from a science fair and a letter from when I became a fellow and a teaching philosophy and licenses. I've got praxis tests. I also have a list of a printout from ODE, the Ohio Department of Education, about what courses I can teach with my license because somehow that became a discussion at an interview, and the folks were conflating the idea about a certificate, which you used to be able to get certified or get a certification in a field. And when that was true, you had to list all your fields on here, but mine is integrated science. And so they were saying that like there was basically nothing I could teach with it, which isn't true. I have praxis tests in here. No one's ever asked me for that, but it's nice that I don't lose it. I have a list of every class that I've ever taken, which has come in handy for things like seeing if I'm eligible to teach College Credit Plus. And then I have a series of transcripts. One thing that's interesting is that right now, some of these offices won't let you get a new transcript. So these are old and they were up to date as of 2015, but I've taken more classes since then. So one of the things I tried to do was order some new ones so I could update my current portfolio, but you can't actually get printed ones. You can only get digital ones. So that's kind of a bummer. I included several sample lesson plans in this binder because that's what everyone says that you should do. I tried to choose ones that represented some different fields and ones that people had seen before. This is one that you can actually download from me, but it's about plate tectonics and how to discuss that with your students. And I've got some samples of student work. Nobody's ever looked at any of these during an interview. It's never really come up, even with questions about how I plan a lesson, because these are too specific, and honestly, I don't like to give people something that they have to read while they're talking to me. Here's one on isotopes. I included this one because it had a lot of chemistry in it. This one was special. This one was from the lesson plan that I wrote while I was a student teacher, which was after my PhD, about the 1913 Dayton flood, and I was student teaching in 2012, so the next year was going to be the 100-year anniversary. This one I've included in my portfolio because this one included some things that applied to social studies and history and also math. So this is an interdisciplinary thing, and I included some of my how did I set up this lesson and my notes from it. This one's also published in a couple of places, which I'll talk about in a minute. I included a bunch of background and things you would have students fill out. And then lastly, because I had that tagline on there, serious scientist, experienced educator, I included research stuff. So as of 2015, I have a list of education research. So this was when I was actually working, doing some things in the field of education research, which I do still dabble in occasionally, and some posters from different meetings. And then I have things that were purely scientific, so things that are based in paleontology. I have some abstracts for those, and then some news articles. So here's one where my research was highlighted in CNE News, which is a publication from the American Chemical Society, phys.org, which put out a press release. And then this is a paper that was published in the journal Geology. This is a paper that went along with one of our talks that I did with this author, where I show up as the author of some of the figures. So there's that. All right, so that was my older portfolio. I kind of just left it the way that it was, just so that I would sort of have those things in one place. And then I created a second portfolio a couple years later. And this one is one that I change things and that I update. So one of the reasons I wanted the new transcripts is because I didn't want to take the old ones out of those because they're out of date. So this is the more updated version. Anyway, I also kind of keep things in here like scrapbooky style. So students write me notes or give me cards and that stuff ends up in here. I've got a cover letter on the top, followed by a resume, which looks a little bit different than it used to. It has more content on it because now I've been a teacher for a few years. So it's got more stuff that's more current. I keep things on here that are relevant to the teaching profession, followed by a CV, which also gets updated. There are better places than me to learn about this stuff. But my resume is a summary statement, education, professional experience, which continues on to the next page. This is the only way I can get it to fit. Then awards and honors. And this is a curated list. This isn't everything. A curated list of publications and a curated list of presentations and things that I've taught. My CV is more comprehensive than that. A couple pages for that regular CV stuff. I have a copy of my license. So this is my credential section. I need to print out a new copy of this, but that's pretty straightforward and easy to do. The reason that it's not correct is because I've added an endorsement and as a gifted intervention specialist. I got an award from my district. And then this is all digital copy of my transcripts. There's a lot of transcripts in here. This is nice to hang on to because if you need to know if you're eligible to teach certain things or to apply to things, you need to know what classes you've taken. My next section is I have some observation data. So this is from when I've been observed by somebody, and the notes are in here for that. I still haven't included my observations from this year, but that'll go in there. The next thing that I have is a list of all the students that I've worked with on independent research projects, or science fair projects. So I have a whole series of video about science fairs. And these are all the kids that I've worked with, including the year, their name, their grade level, their title, scores at various science fairs, including our school science fair, county science fair, a district science fair, a state science fair, and then any special awards that they've won. And so my kids have been pretty successful. I've been happy about that. The next section is things that I've done that are notable in the classroom, or things that students do that they take outside of our school walls, special things that they're doing that are extracurricular science things. So I record that not by just me writing reflections about that. I try to record that in pictures because I think that that's kind of a fun way to share them with people. If someone's going to ask me what things have I been a part of, then I can show them an image that has to do with it. So I've got some newspaper articles. I've got pages from our publications that we do at school. These are students from our iGEM team and some other coverage of their projects over the years. We had an iGEM team for 3 years. Students who were named Melvin Scholars by our Ohio Academy of Science, a student who presented locally at a American Chemical Society presentation forum, some more iGEM kids. The kids collectively won an award at our State Science Day a couple of times. So it's pictures of them with a trophy. I started a Science Olympiad team at our school, and they have been winning medals for the last couple of years. This year we got to participate in state. I have a day that the eclipse was going on near our building. I brought a telescope in and set that up out back, and that's what we did that day during science class. International Science Fair students. This is a news article that my school put out about publishing my Dayton flood article, some leadership I've done with students, a Girl Scout troop that I work with, and then I've got some presentation material. So the first one here is an invited lecture that a friend and I did for the Society of Science and the Public about literature searches. That's another science fair thing. I've got my 2 geology publications. So this is the first one. It was featured on the cover, and then I have the article for it. That's a fun one to show students. And then the second one that I wrote was featured on the cover, and then this year or the year after it, Geological Society wanted to make it a coloring page, so I have a coloring page here, along with the paper for that. So if anybody wants to see what my papers look like, there they are. As far as education research goes, or education publishing, I have the published version of my lesson plan, which was published by the Earth Scientist, which is from the National Earth Science Teachers Association. So that was rewritten for their publication. And then lastly, I helped to write a book chapter connecting self-regulated learning and performance with instruction across high school content areas. And the content area I wrote about was physical sciences. And so I included lesson plans in physics and chemistry for this. And so that's a pretty broad spectrum of different lesson plans. If an interviewer wants to take a look at a lesson plan that I've written, I have some here that are published. And what's nice about these is, I know that they look really good because they've been edited and lots of people have looked at them. So last thing that I have is some information that's related to my training as a gifted intervention specialist. And so this is part of actually the assessment that you have to do at the end, which talks about how do you teach on level for a subject and follow your standards, and also teach higher than that. And so what kinds of modifications and differentiation can you do for that? And so with the classes that I usually have, that's the thing. That's one thing that I worry about, because students don't usually have a written education plan in place at our school. We use 504s and IEPs, but it's nice that I can demonstrate that I can go the other direction as well. So those are, and I have some more cards from students in the back. I tend to just stick stuff in here. So those are my 2 portfolios, and the things that I've used them the most for is not, when I've gone to interviews, and I've been to quite a few interviews, I have never had a person say, I would like to see your portfolio. The closest I got is that a principal said, so what'd you bring with you today? And they wanted to see my portfolio and they flipped through it. That's the closest we've gotten. It has been handy to have it at an interview, though, if I end up talking to HR, because they will frequently want to see a copy of my transcript, or they'll want a copy of my license. And if I have that on hand, it saves them a little bit of time. So it's nice to have for that. The other thing that I intend to do with this is there are programs that you can apply for to get different levels of licenses in the state of Ohio. And so my intent is to be able to do the next one. And so having all this material on hand is making it a lot easier for me to get documents together to support that application. So I would encourage you, if you are interviewing, the way you should consider portfolios is think about the things that you're going to want to highlight that are your strengths. And that's what you want to play to. No matter what they say online that you have to have in your portfolio, because I really don't think that in that many interviews people ask for them. So you're not going to leave this binder with them for them to peruse after you're there. They're going to make a decision about you probably within minutes of you leaving, if you're on their list or not. And if they want more information, they can ask for more information. Your portfolio is going to be something that you use to illustrate a concept that you're talking about already in conversation. The second thing that you're going to need it for is keeping track of your records. And so it's just a really nice way to keep track of test scores and all of those things that you're going to need to be able to demonstrate that you're highly qualified. So consider your portfolio, keep one, have it handy, make sure that you update it, just because it's easier to update it when things happen than 10 years down the road to remember all the great things that you've done. I hope that you stay safe and you be well and you have a wonderful May, end of the school year here, because that's where we're at when I'm filming this. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.